Sometimes you have to break the boundary lines. I think one of the things I think about, I was thinking about a lot of different things, but I just want to talk right now as if I were going to put this up on YouTube, which I may or may not. But I was thinking about one simple fact is that, today we live in a world that's far more advanced than people who had lived in the past, even people in a not so distant past, like Einstein. I mean, Einstein died in 1955. I wasn't even born yet then. It was, 6 years before I was born. The thing is that, actually, 5 years before I was born. But anyway, the truth of the matter is that, and other people like Carl Jung, who died when I was born by then. He died in 1961. And others like Maslow, who died when I was 10. I never even knew about them people until later years. The thing is that, we know a lot more. We have a lot more information. We have so much more stuff. And yet, you know what? Having more knowledge about the world doesn't make any of us great. I think what makes people great isn't what they knew, but it's what they did in relation to the rest of the world as it was back then. Each and every one of us, for example, knows that the earth is going around the sun. Yet none of us, we're not great because we know that. But people like Copernicus, people like Galileo and those who talked about these things and had to weather a tremendous storm in saying those things which we take for granted that we know these things. That was the thing that made them great, was the fact that they had courage and boldness to stand up and do and say things. And I think a lot of times in life, a lot of people want to be great, but they want to be great in a crowd. So they say what the crowd says. Let's oppose this particular thing or oppose that. And you do it in a crowd and you feel safe. And sometimes I wonder how many of those people in the Occupy Wall Street thing would actually stand up individually. I think about when I was in my other job and I stood up against the bosses. And I did it by myself. I did it when nobody else was doing it. I stood up and I spoke my mind. And I got punished. I got in trouble. But I was bold enough to do what I had to do. I had the courage where other people were lacking courage. I had the boldness where other people were lacking boldness. I did things. I stood up and I talked. Now, some people may say, well, you're being arrogant because you think you're so. It's not a matter of arrogance. I was very confident back then. And I still am confident today. But, it's funny that today in my job, I don't spend a great deal of my time fighting people or arguing because things aren't bad where I am now. But they were where I was. People were being mistreated. People were being taken advantage of. People were being exploited. And most people were afraid and they felt like, let's not rock the boat. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to cause any problems. Let me just keep everything, let's just not say anything. Let's be quiet. Let's whisper. Let's go out in the corner. Let's go over the corner and whisper about how bad things are. But let's not say it too loud because we don't, the walls have ears and there are other people around here who are siding with the bosses in this job. But, it's just so funny how it is. What makes people great in this world really is that those people stand up. And I think that that's what it is. People say things that aren't popular. And at a time when it wasn't popular. I was thinking about one of the people that I admire a great deal is Eleanor Roosevelt. Eleanor Roosevelt stood up for causes that, you have to look at it. Now, most people will easily stand up for those type of things. But in the days when she was doing it, it was not very popular. For example, civil rights. In the 40s, in the 30s and 40s, to talk about civil rights. Oh, no. You don't do that. I don't care who you are. But she did that. She stood up for people. She fought for things. She was active about things. And I really have a lot of respect for her. You know, it took a lot of courage for her to do the things she had to do. You know, and after President Roosevelt died, and she still kept doing things. I think that what it is in life is you have to do things. You know, and I was thinking about what Maslow was talking about in that interview. He was talking about, you know, because I guess he had met Eleanor Roosevelt, and maybe they became friends. But he was talking about the fact that she understood that, you know, how people would always talk about how she looked and everything, and the sound of her voice. But she still did what she did anyway. She didn't care about all that stuff. So what? You know, who cares? You still keep doing it. I think that one of the things in life is you have to have courage. You know, I was looking at this program. Actually, a series of videos, and I was just flicking and flicking and flicking. I don't remember the names of them or whatever, and I probably have a hard time trying to find them again. But there was this program with this woman who was severely disfigured, and I guess because she mentioned something about the fact that I guess her disfigurement came from the fact she had to have surgery when she was born, like a few months after she was born, and so her face was really messed up looking. But you know, I just think that a woman was getting really angry at this other woman, this blonde woman who was really, you know, in the typical sense, beautiful. And she was trying to explain something about beauty and why it's important to try to be beautiful and to do what you... And another woman was getting pissed off. And I guess I don't know how this program was working, because maybe it was like some kind of reality type of program where these two people had to be paired together or something. I don't know what the deal was. I don't know all the background. But the thing that kind of struck me was the fact that, you know, most of the time when people have a disfigurement or a disability, we tend to kind of give them a lot of leeway. But I would actually disagree with the woman with the disfigurement, because to a certain extent, you have to realize we live in a world where people do value that, and they're not going to stop because you're having a hard time with it. And that's true. So you have to learn some ways of dealing with these things. You have to learn a way of dealing. I know that that's not a very popular thing to say, because we're supposed to say, well, you know, we're supposed to feel sorry. No, it's not a matter of feeling sorry. Reality, it's like I'm diabetic. When I realized a lot of times at work, people would ignore my situation. You know, I would say, well, get some diet pop. No, that was too much of an inconvenience. Even a simple thing, they would get 5, 6 things of pop. Nobody could ever think to get a diet pop. And then if I ate some ice cream, oh, well, you eating ice cream, so it's like, okay. Yeah, because it's inconvenient. And I actually realized that that's true. One thing is, I don't run around blowing smoke up my ass about how people are. I know that people aren't going to really think about me. I mean, people say it. People say, oh, we care about you, Philip. We care. We really deeply care. No, 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 no. You may care. You know, I can't deny what your heart is telling you. That I do not deny. That I do not argue. But are you willing? That's the key right there. Are you willing to act? People aren't going to do it. The woman was getting mad. She was like screaming and everything else. But the fact is, you have to, first of all, step back and realize that life is like a card game to a large extent. And you are dealt a certain hand of cards. And you have to play with that hand that you're dealt. You really have to play with that hand that you're dealt. You're dealt a certain hand and you got to play it. And that's reality. That's how things work. That's how things really are. You have to play the hand that you're dealt. Life dealt you this hand, and you have to find a way, use creativity. That's why I think that being creative is important. You have to be creative and find a way to deal with this hand that you have been dealt. That's what that woman needs to do. Instead of getting angry at the other woman. Yeah, the other woman is like talking about beauty, and then we live in a beauty-centered world. And that's true. And that's not going to change. And I don't care how much you stump and scream and yell and get mad and tell people how angry you are. They're not going to change. Tomorrow, they're going to forget all about you. You're just going to become just a little footnote on the bottom of their page. And they're going to keep on doing what they do. Just like I know how things are. I know I started off with one topic and I wound up somewhere else. But that's the way I actually say things. You know, that's life.